Hello, everybody, and welcome to the 13th episode. 13th, that's a very hard word for Germans to pronounce. The 13th episode of the ArtaCast. We are back again. We have a lot of topics, actually. I was afraid we have not that much to talk about, but where there's much going on in the Lorcana world. The set championship started. The next DLC is coming this weekend. And we got the first previews or first spoilers of the new set, which is very exciting because that are spoilers, really crazy cool spoilers, because we got a really new mechanic, or a really new card type, you could say. So that's worth talking about as well. But first of all, Eddie, how was your week? I expect you to that you were on a set championships, probably. Did you?
Yeah. I went and played a set championships yesterday as a recording, so Sunday. It was at the weekend, and I had a ton of fun. It was a very big turnout actually. For it was somewhere over 30 players, which is quite big for I live in a pretty rural area where it's a little hard for people to get to. So yeah, just amazing to see like the community growing and that people are still massively turning out for set champs. I had a lot of fun. Maybe a slightly surprising deck choice, but I'm sure we'll get into that in a moment when we talk more about
Yeah.
our set championships.
Yeah, I also played the set championships, and I actually won it. What was very
You
cool.
sound surprised.
Yeah, no, I think okay, let's talk about the decks. I was playing. I was not too confident in I'm always saying that, not too confident in the last weeks, because again, it seems like pretty many decks are viable and only red blue is busted. So we could play a lot of decks, and if we don't want to play red blue. But red blue still seems to be the most powerful deck in my opinion. But it's hard to say. It's at least the deck that has the most. You have no chance draws probably.
Yeah, sure.
But it's hard to say. So I decided. The problem is green purple was in a weird spot, especially in my local area, because we have a very, very competitive local scene here. We have a lot of great players and not much casual players, so they are all pretty competitive, and it's not easy to just win a tournament or something. And and then there were a lot of green steals and a lot of green yellows in our local scene, so I wasn't too confident of bringing green purple. Probably red purple is also not then the best decision, but it's still a bit better to have board wipes and such things. And I brought it, and I was not too confident, and I faced actually a lot of diggy holes with it, which I didn't expect, but somehow I was able to beat them. So that's my list here. It's just a basic red purple list, nothing too special.
This is more of a like a generalist
Yeah.
red purple build, whereas Ed that we looked at last week was very specialized for the field. This is like you could kind of turn up with this anywhere, right? Like you had a decent read on the field, but is there anything in here that you think was super tuned to what you expected on the day?
I was on no genies, and I think that's probably right now. I don't know.
Sure, yep.
It feels right. The matchups where genie shines are not that common, and against red blue genie is most of the time really bad. And it just is an uninkable slot that you could fit with other cards. And most of the time the library is just a better genie most of the time, especially in the matchups where you want to play a threat on turn 4. Then the library is a really good threat on turn 4 against the most decks. I really experienced the power of the card for the first time, really, because I was not very high on library in the past. I was bashing it really much, but yeah, it won me a few games, especially in the mirror match. And yeah, it's a good card. But it's still a card that needs a bit of practice. I think you can play really wrong with that card, I think. And
Yeah.
yeah.
I have a funny story for you actually from this weekend. I spoke to someone. It's actually one of the local store owners close to me. We were playing at a different store, and he was competing, and he said, a long time ago, I was watching Artabax's stream when the library was revealed, and he said library was bad, or didn't like it, and that Castle was better. And then I kept watching the stream when he played Castle, and every time library was better, I put in the chat, library would be better here. And you said, okay, in this situation it would be better. This situation only. And then it was like, how many times is that gonna happen before? He said maybe it's just really good. So yeah, it's interesting because I was really not dead low on it, but I think it's one of those cards that it obviously is powerful, but when you've come off like playing with Castle and stuff like that for a while, it's really, I don't know. I don't think it's immediately obvious that it's better, right? Like it's
Yeah.
shining probably better than it ever has right now, and it's taken people a little bit of time to recognize like those play patterns.
Yeah, I don't want to say it's straight up better than Castle. It's
No.
just and for example, if you I faced the Blue Steel. Blue Steel is really bad matchup for this list that I brought because I play no genies and no castles, and that both not is really too less pressure most of the time against them. So
Yeah,
that's
sure.
a matchup, for example, where Castle would be way better. But in these tricky mirror situations, it's really good and still inkable. So it's just sometimes you would just need to have a little bit more proactive pressure card. That the genie is not always that. So, but the library is nearly always you could say a threat that needs to be answered. And sometimes we lack a bit of threats if we have our hands full of Medusas and stuff. And yeah, that's really refreshing to have cards like that you can play and your opponent has to react to that. And that's especially when you're when you are ahead, especially then it's really good.
Yeah. Nice. Any standout insights from any of your games?
I actually was surprised how good the list felt. I mean, I was pretty lucky sometimes, but how good the matchup against Diggy Hole was. I 2-0'd one and 2-1'd two. So if you have two or three 1-drops in the opening hand, then it's actually quite doable with a lot of foxes and crabs and stuff. And the big Sisu is a big tempo swing against them. So I don't think that the red purple is crazy unfavored against Diggy Hole. It's a bit unfavored probably still, and probably Diggy Hole is also a very very skillful deck. So maybe, but I think my opponents were really good. So don't think there was too much played wrong. So that was a bit surprising for me that I did so well against them. Yeah, that's my insights. And you were sorry, don't want to interrupt.
No, I was just going to say things always seem to go better when you have less confidence. If you ever feel good going into the tournament, it's the kiss of death. You never want to walk into the room feeling happy.
Yeah, because I came into the tournament and one of my locals came to me and said, "Oh, what you bringing?" And I don't know. And then I said, "Okay, I tell you, it's red purple." And then he asked me which matchups I think I beat with red purple, and I said none.
None. I don't know anything.
No, it's just not favored into anything. It's just a solid deck, but it's not favored. There's no deck you think, oh nice, Nice. I crushed them.
Yeah.
Even red blue is it's probably still the best deck into red blue, but it's not
Mm.
far away from highly favored or something. Especially
Yeah.
like these lists that are a middle of the thing lists. I mean, Ed's build probably is highly favored against red blue, but yeah, I mean this in set championships you always have to be a bit more. I think even Ed would probably agree that you have to be a bit more, more options and more, especially against aggro or something,
Yeah,
more
for sure.
tools a bit, yeah.
Yeah, nice.
And you, what did you play?
I felt similarly to you. I felt like it wasn't really time to play green purple. For all the reasons you listed, it just didn't feel extremely well positioned. I felt like I was going to be a bit far behind some of the steel decks. So I sold my soul to the devil who is actually
Is a
named
bird? Is that a
JDRR.
bird? Uh, is the devil a bird?
No,
No, it's not bird.
no, the devil is well, in spirit, the devil is the player JDRR, but literally it is the card Doc. Um, and I registered a Doc pile that I have been trashing at every opportunity and saying how much I hate Doc in the previous weeks. And then I thought, well, I'm so frequently wrong. Maybe I go with what I hate, and it might be great. And I played some Doc in the like Purple Steel Doc. You can see the list here. In the week running up to the set championships, and I started to like it more and more. And I was having a conversation with So the list I played was based off of a list from Lizard Kitty, one of the players from
Mm-hmm.
TFM, and she's had a lot of success with it. And I thought, well, she knows what she's doing. I will take that as my starting point and just run with that. I only made one minor tweak, which was I put 2 copies of Zeus in there. And that was probably not a great choice. I was advised not to, did it anyway.
Really?
Because it's sort of it clunks up the hand a little bit with
Mm,
Doc. Your singers are limited. But I actually had a great experience. It was a bit of a learning curve to sort of get my head around some of the Purple Steel lines. I had a lot of fun. It was nice to play something different, but I was first after Swiss in my set championships, which is a sentence which is always followed the exact same way. Starts, I was first after Swiss, and then lost immediately in top 8.
no.
Nobody ever goes, I was first after Swiss, and then also won the tournament. So, but I felt like on the day I was quite lucky to get that result, and it felt good in a reasonably big room, and like I say, a reasonably new deck. And I have changed my mind on Doc. I think it's an awesome card that has its place. Most of the fault I was seeing with it is with me. Like it can be a little bit high rolly. It can feel bad. You in multiples, you're never happy. But a lot of the time, it just played so much smoother than I expected, and I was pretty happy to just be playing one of like what feels like a growing field of just steel curve out piles,
Mm-hmm.
It's just
And
right now I I took I didn't really know how to sort of like put the thought into words, but I would love to see a breakdown of like how many decks in a lot of these top eights and stuff aren't playing Calhoun and Smee. It's like you can have it blue flavor with like the curve out deck popularized by Justin and Harlan, or you can have Amber Steel, traditional Steel Song, or Diggy Diggy, and it's just you still play those same cards. It's like as the level of cards goes up, you need to be doing strong stuff early, and so the decks like can't really durdle on turn 2 like they used to. Like like snaking a 1-drop used to be fine, and now it's kind of like not fine or fine way less often for a lot of decks. That they're just you're seeing a sea of these decks with Calhoun Smee,
mm,
when even green steel. It's just like steel plus X curve out, and you get to pick your flavor. And purple is my flavor, so I went with something like this. And like I say, I had a lot of fun. I probably will just experiment a bit more. trying to take some of the pressure off of just, after playing a ton of this set in the lead up to Continentals, and then more after, trying to like just play some fun stuff locally and see if I could win a match still. If not, it's not the end of the world, But I'm trying to branch out because I feel like I'm stagnating a little bit, just drilling games of green purple. You've done the right thing, and I have criticized you for it. When you said I played red blue, I say, oh, awful, what a bad thing to do. And now I think actually it's 100% the right choice. Even if you never register it for a tournament, get like 50, get 50 matches with it, get 100 matches, whatever. Just learn it inside out and continue to improve at the game. So I'm trying to follow that logic a little bit, and it led me to dock, but I wasn't mad. It was just a fun day.
Yeah, I mean, if you can't beat them, join them. You can say, right?
Yeah.
And actually, you can't beat them. It's wrong probably. If you are
Sometimes
not,
I can beat them, but
if you're annoyed by them, join them. That's what I that's what I wanted to say.
that's it. Exactly.
That's sometimes what you have to do if you are tilted too much.
Yeah.
And I don't know, maybe that's a topic for a whole episode, but I get more tilted than in the past in this game.
Yeah.
And I don't know why. And I don't know, I don't want it. I don't want it. I actually, in general, I think everyone knows that I'm a really peaceful, how can you say peaceful person, or how can you say that? I'm not someone who's very, very easily mad at people, and but in this game sometimes I get tilted. I don't say that, but in myself I'm tilted, and I don't know why. It makes no sense to me, but I don't have an idea why.
No, I have a couple of theories because I feel the same way. Probably don't need to get into it in too much detail while we've got so much other stuff to talk about. But like, for me, it's a mixture of things. It's like fatigue with this set because we were preparing for Continentals, which was basically effectively the week after like wide release for the set. We had to front load all of our testing and practice. So we played tons of this set really early. So now there's like a boredom element, which is that metagame is mostly settled. You know what every deck does. There are very few innovative answers to any of them. It's just you could confidently say how most games are going to go. So when something happens out of the ordinary that messes that up, you find it so much more frustrating because it's like you know how it should go, and then as soon as it doesn't, right, you feel angry. The other thing is, it's like 2024 was a really good year for both of us, and I think I feel a lot of it's all in my own head. It's like there's a pressure to continue performing highly, right? Which is that I've got my nice collection of championship mats, and now I'm trying to approach set championships the way I always have, as like a fun thing. But as the collection grows, it's like now I'm scared of missing one. Like, what am I going to go and just like sweat out of my mind, play my absolute best deck, make sure I'm well rested, and just play like it's like a DLC or something? Probably not. I don't want to go in with that attitude. But like, the desire to play is taking a slight backseat to the fear of not winning, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense.
If you're winning, the only way you can go is down. So you think, right, I'm on top of the world right now. I need to just continue performing. So yeah, it makes the losses a lot harder, and can be a real hindrance to trying. As soon as you start thinking like that, you sort of like it's a self-fulfilling prophecy. You start to play worse, and you start to you engineer your own fall off because you're scared. So yeah, that's what I'm trying to avoid, and just taking a more deliberate attitude towards learning again, because you're never done learning, are you? It's just a process you need to stick with. That's kind of where I feel about it.
Yeah, you're probably right. Yeah, especially when you see MetaFi right now, when you are top 5, or I think I was top 1 even coaches on MetaFi now, and then you think, oh my gosh, I have to confirm that I'm worth
Yeah, right.
that I'm worth coaching, that it's worth to do coaching with me, so I need to consistently confirm that. And but it's not possible, but it could also be because I have a really good player in the set championships. There was on Saturday, and he's a really good player. And he went 1-4, because he got crushed by Akro the whole day. And
Yep.
that happens, That could have happened to me too. And if that repeatedly happens, then you get very, very, yeah, afraid probably. And that's why you feel the pressure and you get more angry probably. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah, it starts to wear you down. But that's maybe a good point to transition into talking about the sort of general metagame at set championships at the moment. So you mentioned that you knew what your expected field was like. Did you have any kind of observations about what people were playing actually on the day? Any major surprises?
I would actually probably in set championships always take more into Acro probably because
Yeah, for sure.
these random losses you should probably try to avoid in a set championship. But our metagame was really, really wide open. I think
Okay.
a deck like red purple is still probably one of the best picks for set championships. I think it has still this potential to outplay people very much more than other decks probably. It's hard to say, but it has just this way to deal with everything a bit, and that's probably often enough to win a best of 3 if you're better than the opponent or something. It's hard to say. But I think it's still there's still so many playable decks. It's really hard to say. I think it's hard to say. I think red blue is a bit weaker in set championships because there's so many
Yeah.
random stuff that's running around and could crush you just because they slam 2 locations in first 2 turns. I played against beneath a dog deck with red steel with tons of location, and he just crushed red blue with that. They can do nothing.
Yep.
Red blue is a deck that's very tagged into a certain meta game, and that's where it shines. So probably a little bit lower on red blue and higher on red purple, and also high on Ember Steel. Probably it's also very good in such championships.
No, I'm glad you said that actually, because that was my exact thought as well. Basically, that effectively from the start of this set, I've thought about red blue more than any other deck. It's the thing you've had to beat. It's the thing we were teched to beat in Paris, and that was the absolute right call because the field was full of it. All of these fields have been really heavily loaded with it, and a really skilled red blue pilot playing that deck is near unbeatable. And there aren't many matchups that feel particularly bad, even the ones that you're told about on paper, like green purple. It's understandable why that's not favored for them. You can shore it up with Pirate's Life and Shark and stuff. Just play a turn 4 Shark, and it's really hard for lots of decks to beat it. But then chatting to people at set championships, because there was only one red blue player in the whole room at the one I went to. Tons and tons of steel, every single flavor you could imagine, just people strengthening and storming each other's characters. That was like the whole tournament. And I said to someone, like, why doesn't anyone here play red blue? And the general opinion was that red blue didn't beat those decks. And I thought, well, the red blue players that I talk to and play with, like, they seem to without much trouble. But I think actually it's just a really consistent, super high skill cap deck that maybe once you get more to the set championship level, there are probably fewer players in a general field that could confidently like 5-0 with red blue, right? Because like you say, they get blown out by some random thing, they make 1 or 2 sequencing mistakes, and then they're just out of contention. Lots of points of failure in that deck, despite it being massively powerful. So if that happens and there's no red blue in the field at all, or a very, very small amount, suddenly the whole format devolves into a wild aggro war, and it's just people battling to curve out on each other, like who can play the most Smees, Calhouns, whatever else, who's sticking turn 1 Cindy's with Storm and Strength in hand, that sort of thing. And it's massively different. And I left the tournament because the deck I lost to, it wound up being the only match I lost, but it's a pretty important one. First round of top 8, it was Steel Song, and I definitely made a couple of quite bad plays, playing a bit loose on the day. But I left it thinking, like, what would I even play into that field? Like, I'm not only not a red blue expert, I'm actually quite bad with the deck. So I don't know what the answer is. I have to just keep on smeeing and Calhooning into the mess and just see what happens.
I often think a deck that contains Be Prepared is always
Yes.
a good choice, because it's just
Yes.
your emergency button still. It's still your emergency button against stupid things that's going on.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think there's much playable and much can win. And I'm often bashing red blue for its easiness to play, but actually I don't want to, because against aggro it's really important how you pilot a red blue deck. That's
sure.
really not, please, dear red blue players, please don't understand me wrong. There's a lot of skill involved still in red blue, and especially against aggro, it's very you need to exactly know when you can go for the turn 4 shark. Do you hard mulligan for that? That's really important things. And if you don't do your mulligan correctly against certain decks, then you just lose. And there are certain lines you need to hit against aggro decks, especially on the draw. And if you don't hit them, then you lose. And then that's especially the mulligan is very important into those matchups for red blue, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, like you were saying, play the thing that tilts you most. Well, I have played some red blue, and when it's piloted perfectly, it's incredibly tilting to play against. If you want to learn the points of failure, just pick the deck up. I found out pretty quickly how to lose to aggro.
Yeah.
It's actually pretty easy to lose some of those matchups.
That's true.
So yeah, a blanket apology issued to red blue players. Sorry for saying you were all heartless and skillless.
That's also
and
something.
A personal apology to Sailor.
Yeah,
you are a god.
Yeah. I think he knows that. Hopefully, Sailor, you know that. Yeah, and also it's how's the word called? The illusionists, the deck or something. If you play it yourself, if you think if you think, oh, Diablo's busted, play it and brick three games in a row, and suddenly you think, it's not too busted. It's good when it hits, and it's bad when it's not hit. And opponent has a white board, and all you have in your hand is 2 Prince Johns or something, and then you just suddenly know, all decks have their weakness, and it just removes a bit of the magic, or how can you say, of the deck, because you always think the deck that's against you good is busted, and
it's like, it's such a classic way of thinking, isn't it? You as the opponent only remember when everything went right for them, and when you're the player, you only remember when things went wrong for you. So like we always said when we were talking about Diablo, is everyone that doesn't play Diablo thinks it's busted. Everyone that plays it thinks it's awful, because they just keep bricking with it, or it just gets fire the cannons or something, and those are the times that stick in mind. But yeah, I think we've all got those biases, and the best way to kind of keep them in check is to just try and flex. I mean, you can't, like, people don't have collections. People don't own every card, right? It's not easy to just pick up every deck and try it out. But like, find the means to practice, and just, if you can, swap decks with friends and stuff. Do what you can to just branch out and see things from their point of view, because you'll learn a ton about the other matchups.
Yeah,
and it's really tough to master this game, because you must simultaneously be an expert in one deck archetype and know the others inside out. So my advice is quit your job and just play all day.
play all day, every deck.
It's that easy.
I often think, because I got some messages about Artabax, you said in the podcast you're not a maths guy, and then I said that you understood me wrong. Of course, if you play a high competitive at a TCG, you must be a math guy somehow. The maths. You must understand the maths of the TCG. That's not what I wanted to say. I just think we could use the maths even more, and we just don't use it
For sure.
because we always say, oh, I don't think the green purple matchup is that bad into red blue, and then someone else says, oh, red blue is favored, and I say, oh, green purple. We could just know it. We could just meet up, play tomorrow, played 8 hours only this matchup, 120 games, and then we could just know it. There's no oh, I think it's not favored. Oh, I think it's favored. I think it's not favored.
Yeah.
We could just know it, but we don't do it. We just playtest a bit, and then we say, oh, it feels good and it feels not good. We could use the maths even more. That's the only thing that I wanted to say. And I'm a kind of an intuitive player and not the best, because you need to have a lot of endurance to play 8 hours against a bad matchup or something. Imagine you want to exactly know how the green purple against green steel matchup is, and you want to say, and you think, okay, we play 8 hours now, the green purple against green steel. I don't think anybody in this world has fun doing that. No. So that's the only thing I wanted to say with maths. I'm still very math involved in this game. That's not what I wanted to say, because so many people told me, why you don't like it? Math is everything. Of course it's math, math is not everything. It's a lot. It's not everything. I think, because, for example, now I tell my old stories. My brother was a very, very, very good player in World of Warcraft TCG, where we played, and I was always impressed by him because, and that's not math, that's another skill. He always knew by the body language of his opponents, it was crazy, which cards they have. He was a poker player, and he knew exactly has nearly a hit rate of 100%. Which cards they have? Are they sad or something? Then they don't have a B prep or something. That's nothing you could. That's a very important skill, but you can't. By maths, there's no. You can't do maths with that. It's just a psychological skill, you could say.
Yeah, totally. Like you say, math's always going to be a big element of it, but there are levels to it, right? There's the math we're all doing, and the sort of percentages we're calculating with mulligans, that sort of thing, when we're deck building, and then go read an article by Frank Carsten. There's another level of math that some people
that's
do.
True.
And it's and not all of us can do it.
Yeah.
In fact, very few people can, and the people that can have mostly got math PhDs. But it's like you would have to call him a math guy, right? Which is like we all have a different balance of skills that are involved, but some people like Frank, they're math guys. I'm definitely not one. I'm like I don't know, a vibes player.
Yeah.
I am better at feeling the game state, like you say. Like I can reasonably read potential things that people have by that sort of thing, and just knowing what could feel good into a field. But not like hardcore calculations like Frank, that sort of thing.
I try not to be a vibe too much a vibe player, but everyone is. And every one of the high competitive players plays a different deck, and everybody thinks of that. My deck is the best, so only one can be wrong. Only one can be right, So there's surely bias involved there.
Yeah, totally.
But okay, the next topic we have to talk about is Melbourne. I think Melbourne will be this weekend by recording, and I think interesting for the people will be what the meta game what meta game we expect there to be, And I don't know if the Australian has some. I have some Australian students which did coaching with me, and they say they are high on Steel Song, the Australian people. But in the
It's
DLC, I'm
interesting.
not sure if that's representing what happened there, because a lot of people will still probably be just high competitive and want to pick the best deck, and don't know if that Steel Song is one of the decks, but I still think that red blue, and because of red blue, red purple will be the most played decks probably, I think, but I don't know how you feel about it.
Yeah, I think it's probably has the potential to be the most interesting DLC of any so far, perhaps outside of like the first one in the US and Europe. There seems to be some sort of community feeling that because it's the first one in the region, that it will somehow be like slightly easier, or that the overall caliber of player will be lower. I'm not sure I buy that so
Mm-mm.
much. It may be true to like a really small extent, which is that yes, there will be a lot of players there that haven't had a chance to attend any DLCs at all, because of location restrictions, and for that reason, it might be slightly softer. But I really don't buy this idea that it's
Mm-mm.
going to be like a cakewalk for like some sort of professional level players from Europe or America. We live in an age where access to knowledge about this game is like it's shared globally. That everyone consumes the same content. Like you say, you've got Australian coaching students. It's not like being in Australia restricts them from knowing everything
Mm-hmm,
that we
mm-hmm.
mostly know about this game. So I think people, it should be reasonably like, well, it should be very, very high level of competition. If it is a softer field for whatever reason, it's only going to be by a couple of percentage points,
Mm-hmm.
I would imagine. There'll be plenty of players. There are plenty of incredible TCG players in that region. That have been playing this game to a high standard for a long time and just haven't had the chance to showcase their skill. So in terms of actual expected metagame, I really don't think we will see any huge surprises. Just based on recent observations, there is a slide back towards steel. I wouldn't be surprised if like you saw, for the same reasons we discussed about set championships, that you saw a fair bit less red blue versus some of these LCQ and Continentals fields.
Mm-hmm.
More Steel Song makes sense. It's like universally popular. Probably some amount of like blue steel curve. There seems to be a load of purple steel around at the moment, various different builds. Yeah, I would expect reasonably high representation from those, and even green steel seeing a big uptick at the moment. Again, it's kind of if the red blue does tick down, all those decks have a fair bit more chance to shine in an open field. And red purple, you could never count it out because it's an unknown. If there are like region-based preferences for decks, like we've seen in some countries around Europe, for example, people don't know them yet unless they live in Australia. Then they maybe know. But going into an unknown field, you'd probably want something like red purple with you, wouldn't you? If you had absolutely no idea, you're going to feel all right with red purple. Or you won't actually, based on what we said earlier. You'll feel bad, but you'll do fine.
You beat nothing, but you feel fine. Yeah.
Yeah. You beat nothing, but somehow you beat everything, so that's all good.
No, I totally agree. It will probably the DLC, and that's a bit misleading for people. I think the DLC with the least amount of, how can I say, the popular players or something, with the like, but that doesn't mean anything for
No.
the competition. I mean, only because people are popular doesn't mean they are good. I mean, they're probably not bad, but as well, this is a slow percentage of people, a very low percentage of people, so that doesn't mean too much. And even some unknown players can be better than the most popular guy in this game. So,
Absolutely.
yeah, I totally agree. The competition should be. It shouldn't make a difference. Probably you still will see if you are 5-0 you will face a good player.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
There's no doubt in that. And if we all know how low in a very high competitive field how high the variance is. If I play against, if someone plays against each other, they will probably go 50-50 nearly all the time, because it's just at a certain level it gets very lucky, I think. And and then doesn't make much difference if the people are known or not, or if they are slightly better. The slightly better is not meaning that much, to be honest, in a tournament, probably.
No, and the longer the game goes on as well, the sort of smaller that gap gets. There are lots of players, I would, throw myself into this group. Players that saw a decent amount of success early and had an opportunity to kind of connect with like our friendship, right? Like I won some stuff and did well, and then I was able to like form friendships with players like you, which is fantastic. But players like that, you get to know them, but you propel yourself to that position by playing a lot of the game early on, basically, and over time that advantage peters out. Like I'm not wildly basically I could lose any game effectively. Like it's not like these players with this level of experience are unbeatable by any stretch of the imagination. Just because you watch someone's content certainly doesn't mean you can't beat them. And it goes the opposite way for like people you don't know. Because you don't know them, it doesn't mean they're not the best player in the room. They very, very definitely could be, and they could be the right combination of good and lucky on the day to just roll the tournament. And the people that you think might take those 2 world invites from Melbourne, the odds are stacked against them. I'll say that it's a risky flight purchase. It's not cheap to get to Australia from Europe or America, and I mean, all credit to the people that are doing it. It's a big swing, and I wish them all the luck in the world, but maybe I don't have the confidence they do.
I think no one of them should go with the expectation to I make it. Probably that would be really crazy, I think. I mean, you have a decent chance if you're a really good player, but I totally agree with you. You can lose to everyone. The last time, but maybe it's good that it's not that anymore. The last time I was so confident in a tournament that I thought, okay, there must be happening something really crazy things that I will do really bad, was actually set 3. Set 3, I think I only got, I told it today, I talked with some friends of mine, some Lorcana friends. I think I got only popular because of set 3, because the set 3 green purple was so crazy busted. It was really unfair deck, and I think my success there in that time was really helpful for my, how can I say, for my reputation, you can say. I think I'm not a bad player, but I don't go to a tournament anymore and think, easy. But that time I played a turn 3 Ursula. Brawl didn't exist, and I just think, deal with it. Either bounce 2 characters of yours, or I draw 4 cards. Good luck. It's your turn.
I had the exact same conversation with someone this weekend, where I said, like, we were talking about like the dominance of red purple in set 2, and then it wasn't just that green purple was great in set 3, and it, 3 things going on at once, right? Green purple came mostly out of nowhere as a top tier deck in that set. It wasn't anywhere near. It wasn't in the conversation in set 2. So you didn't have a bunch of loyalists that were stuck on the deck. It gained incredibly good stuff that was specifically good into red purple, and half of all players of this game were stuck to red purple like glue. You couldn't dream a better situation for this like deck to have thrived in, where I was stuck on the same point you've just said. I was like, do we appreciate like Brawl didn't exist? You would just go turn 3 Ursula, right? They had one out. It was uninkable Pinocchio, and they had to have included enough of them in their deck to
And
exert your Ursula and trade with it right away and have drawn it.
and they need to have a snake or a Rafiki to
Yeah.
even do that. Because on turn 3, they need a Rafiki or a snake to even do that. That was
Yeah.
crazy.
And it was, so they need a specific combination of cards to stop it. Your turn 3 Ursula from just being a 0-cost draw 4 or bouncing their whole board. And then if they do have that combination of cards, the next turn you just went, okay, second Ursula.
Yeah.
Pass. Just go again. Can you stop the second one? Got another bouncer? Well, we'll see, won't we? But the amount of times I drew 4 cards with friends that set was absolutely wild. That's I don't know if this is where you were going with it, but like, because China and Japan have a staggered release for different sets, if they got DLCs and there was an opportunity to play a set 3 DLC,
I will go, surely. I will go. No matter what it costs.
Going, I have to think very seriously about going. Have to give it some good thought.
No question from me. And I get crushed by, because we had some bad matchup. It was not completely.
Yeah, for sure.
I mean, there was Steel Song. Blue Steel was also tricky, and but most of the time it felt really good. But how did we came to the topic? I don't know.
I don't know. Just talking about the good old days.
Yeah. Coming back to Melbourne, I think the people want to know from us what we expect. So just one short, what is the most played deck?
Oh.
Or do you want to say? Do you don't?
Amber Steel will be the most played. Okay. I'm going to guess Amber Steel as the most played color pairing, because I think you then catch the Steel Song loyalists and people that play Diggy Diggy as a it's a super powerful linear deck right now that if you don't have like a deck you're stuck to, it'll be a popular choice for a lot of people that are looking to turn them sideways, So I'll say Amber Steel is the most represented color combination.
That's a clever, because it's 2 decks actually. Yeah, that's a clever.
Yeah, so I just cheated basically. I didn't give you an answer. I gave you 2 answers as one, and you have to accept it now.
Yeah, cheater. I won't cheat. No, I think it's very hard for me between red blue and red purple. I think red purple, but I don't know. It's hard to say. I think red purple or red. If you see it objectively, I still think the most people will say red blue, because the crazy thing about red blue is still it has the worst matchups are 50-50. And it's actually crushing some matchups so much that you objectively should pick it, because which matchup do it really hard loses? It's only some probably hyper aggro nonsense or something.
Yeah.
And even red purple and green purple, what should be the worst matchups from meta. I play the matchup so much. I really think it's very close to 50-50 against green purple. Depending on the list of both players a bit, but so for many people, but that's probably a bit for even the nationals or something. There you really saw that represented by the meta share. Maybe in the DLC that's not. That's a bit less of a reason, but I say red purple.
Yeah. It probably wouldn't be too far off with it. No, I think it's a good call. Yep.
Yeah. Okay. The last thing I want to talk about with you today, and that's a very exciting topic for me.
Yep.
We could talk about that for hours, but we only have some minutes left. It's the new set. The new set. The name is Archazia Islands or something like that. And we knew the name for a long time, but now we got the first spoilers. And what spoilers they are? We got really that what many people thought it could be, and that's dual ink cards, and that's very, very exciting. Because we're already, I think it's only 3 spoilers now. But the 3 spoilers are telling us what's coming.
Yeah, exactly.
First of all, they didn't confirm how it's actually. I think it's very obvious, but they didn't confirm how it's ruled. But that's the first thing I want to talk with you about. Are the dual ink color cards only playable in the specific color combination? Or, for example, we can show the bell now. There's a new bell. That's a red-blue bell that can be played. Yeah, and the question is now, can it only be played in red-blue, or can it be played in any red or any blue deck? What do you think? I think it's probably only in red-blue, but I don't know.
Yeah, I think, like you say, it's not confirmed, but I think almost certainly it's only playable in red-blue decks. And the reason being that the rules of the game, while the rules documents we've got are still quite limited, one of the things that is actually laid out is the very plain text. A deck can have a maximum of 2 ink colors in it, right? Which is that if this red-blue card was instead a card that can be played in either red or blue decks, you would essentially be adding a card that has the color identity red to your blue steel deck, for example, and it would not be a valid deck choice as the rules are written currently. The rules don't say you pick 2 colors of ink and every card in your deck must be one of those 2. So with the way it's written, it would currently not allow you to put those cards in, like put the red blue bell into a blue steel deck, for example. So I think it's pretty likely they're just locked to a color duo.
Yeah, I think so too. It would also be very, it would be very complicated if they didn't, because then it's very hard to balance things. I mean, with that, they could print a lot of powerful cards, and because every card's then leaning to one color combination, it's still probably an easier way to balance things, because
I've had a lot of conversations with people about this, and I know there are some players. Generally, players have like one way they're leaning, that they wanted dual color cards to work. They either want them to be locked to a color duo so that they're like super representative of that pair's identity, and provide a chance for like less played pairs. So something like Ruby Steel, for example, next to no results anywhere ever. That pair could have a really pushed dual color card, right? If as long as it's locked to Ruby Steel, a really big signpost, that massive injection of power to a deck that has roundly been way underpowered and not been able to compete. If, for example, you cannot do that with a card that you can't make a powerful Ruby Steel duel if it can be played in any Ruby or Steel deck, because the other issue you get is homogenization. Every deck starts to look the same. We've already got a field where half of decks play Steel or Amethyst. If you then add like the word people use is splashable, like a card that you could just throw in as a splash of a different ink color. If that is splashable, every single Steel deck would play it if it was good, which means half the field would play it at least. Every Ruby deck would play it, every Steel deck would play it, and you would have these cards that are so rampant that every single game starts to feel the same. And I think that's really what we don't want, right? We don't want these games to feel samey. We don't want like a best card that you're going to play against in almost every matchup. What we really do want is a fun and balanced game where every single ink duo has its own identity, and the ones that, now that we're well over a year into the game, we've had a chance to see which duos have sort of consistently perform well and which ones need a little help up. And the reason I'm more excited for this than any other spoiler season is just that really there is actual potential that some of these underplayed color pairs could get the injection they need. We really could see new decks reasonably, like for the first time in a long time, and that is massively exciting.
Yeah, that's really, really cool. So let's talk about some, and I think there are only 3 spoilers now. For now,
Mm.
I mean the beast. There's also a beast, but I think we don't know the actual stat line of the beast, so it's
No,
not.
it's only sort of part revealed, isn't it? You can
Yeah.
only see some of it in the picture.
So we have actually 3 cards. One of that is the bell, the new bell, and that's the blue-red super rare. The first thing, it's very hard to say how many each color combination gets. How many cards?
Yeah, right.
Probably 2 or 3 or 4, maybe. It can't be much more than
Yeah.
that, because blue-red has already 2, so it must be at least 2.
Yeah.
So
yeah. It could be like one of each rarity, but sets don't have enough legendaries for every pair to get a legendary.
Yeah.
And you probably want to have some monocolor legendaries, as the other sets have had.
Yeah.
So I could imagine every pair gets an uncommon, rare, super rare. You get 3.
Okay,
Maybe a common one. Yeah.
That's a very good guess, I think. Fortunately, the bell is bad, probably.
Yeah, I think so. I think it's fair to say.
Yeah.
No, go ahead.
Yeah, I think if you read the card and you really think, okay, it's an interesting effect, but you need to compare this card to a Tamatoa or an Ariel or something, and I can't see this card. It's not a worst card in the game, but if you compare this to its way more consistent alternatives, I can't see a world where this card is played.
Yeah.
It
asks.
Yeah.
Sorry, I was just going to say, it basically asks more of you than those other cards do to achieve mostly the same thing.
Yeah.
So
Tamatoa even draws you a card.
Yeah, exactly. You achieve the same thing or less.
I can't see it. And the shift, I mean, I think the effect is quite interesting with the shift. I think that's a cool mechanic with the cost less to shift.
Yep.
But even that, it's very expensive. And then that's something to ask for, to have 3 item cards in your discard, and
not easy.
And then it's counter. It's when you play a Tamatoa in your deck and this, it's very bad because you get your popsicles from a discard, and you don't want you want to have popsicles in your discard. So I don't see it.
No, can't imagine this one seeing a lot of play. It's like I just don't think those red-blue decks have the slots to consider anything like this that puts pressure, because this asks a lot of you. There's a lot of pressure on your deck building. I just don't think that deck is such like a well-engineered engine with really few black spots.
Yeah, and you have to play. You have to play the small bell then, and such stupid cards. And the problem is just for me the alternatives. I mean, there's so many good. Even this Sheriff of Nottingham or something is probably better than so many good big bombs in this color combination.
Yeah.
Yeah. The other thing.
Yeah, that's the other.
Sorry. Yeah.
I was just going to say that's the other thing people forget during spoiler season, that we all get we compare current cards to we think about them in the context of what cards are being played. So you might look at something like this bell and be like, well, maybe you change the deck a bit, and it's sort of you go for these big blowout wins by playing more items. But then you actually, the most telling thing when it comes to analysing new cards is what isn't playable. And that Sheriff of Nottingham is the perfect example. There's not a playable card, and it's easier to get this kind of effect from that. So if that's not playable, then what does it say about Bell, really?
Yeah, exactly. And the next card is a bit of interesting for me, the new Yagor, which brings a new mechanic to the game, which is Vanish. Yep. It's a 4/4/6 with a really funny effect. It's first of all evasive, and the second effect is the Vanish, what means when an opponent chooses this character for an action, banish them. So you can banish your opponent. It's a very
strangely phrased.
Yeah. I did read that, and I think, okay, maybe I'm not native speaking English, but is this right? I don't know. Banish them? I don't know. But actually, what it means is if you choose this character as a target for any action, it's just banished right away. You can target this with even an improvise or something, and it's just banished. And that's the cost for this super overstated body that it provides. And yeah, that's interesting. What do you say?
My first thought was, okay, these illusions will all be pretty much just unplayable. I don't think you can have something that is instantly removed by anything targeted. As long as it's, there are some, if you look at like Red Purple, for example, it plays Brawl, but Brawl won't be able to target it. So, there are lots of conditional targeted actions at the moment. And as long as these don't meet the conditions, they're just as safe to them as any other card would be. But it makes me worried only from the perspective of like a deck like Green Purple that currently doesn't want to really play any actions if it can get away with it. You turn up to your set championships, someone will have a deck full of these fat illusions, and you'll have absolutely no way to answer them. So I don't look at this and think, right, I want to make an illusions deck. I'm not particularly interested in that. But it's more about basically however good the best illusion is will inform us like how playable decks are with absolutely zero targeted actions. And I don't want to start playing cards like improvise. You can pay cheap actions that draw you a card. The cost, the deck building cost for something like that is pretty low because it's low cost redraws. But you really don't want to be putting things like that in your deck if you can avoid it.
Yeah.
Unless you've got action synergies of your own and it's fueling some of those. But I think the best one will probably be really good. The best illusion will probably be amazing.
Yeah.
And yeah, I don't know.
I think it
If
must
the
be.
Argo's the best one, we're fine. But yeah,
I think a cheap one could be really good.
yeah.
But a 4 cost is it's a risky play probably. But if you have a a 2 cost 3/3 quest for 2 or something. And
that's me. That's an
as
illusion
me,
instead of taking damage. Yeah,
for example that. Then
that's a very good card. Yeah,
just
very
a
playable.
short reminder how busted Smee is.
Yep.
That would be, for example, way less risky because if he gets then banished by a Storm Rage or something, it's not that you any 2-drop gets banished by a Storm Rage on, so it's not that big of a deal.
Yeah, exactly.
But I mean, that's what I just wanted. That's how I think about it. Cheap ones could be really, really good, especially in Akko decks. But the higher costed it gets, it gets really tricky. You skip your whole turn then if they have some annoying things just targeting that. So usually the higher the cost it gets for such effects, it gets less and less playable, I think.
Yeah.
Because
I hadn't thought about that so much, but you're completely right. If there are 2 is bad, 3 is probably okay, but you're getting into a different territory there. But the 1-drops, if there are 1-drop illusions, that'd be a real issue.
Well, yeah, that would be. Yeah, because then the illusion is not really a downside because it gets blown away by everything that gets that targets it. So that would be really busted probably. So we have this new Jafar that has this illusion synergy, and I'm really not too high on it probably.
No, this card's no good.
And this card reminds us, or cards like this reminds us always how good Caesar is. And the stat line is so bad. I mean, by this card I could be more wrong than the Bell because maybe the meta shifts completely from a non-Caesar world. It's hard to imagine, but if we have a non-Caesar world, then this card could be playable if we have a lot of good illusions. But it's hard to imagine that Caesar will go away completely.
That seems very unlikely.
So I'm sadly not too high on it, and we of course need to know more illusions. I mean, if you have a lot of 1-drops and you play this on turn 4 and trade with all your illusions into everything, it's not as powerful. During the opponent's turn. Oh no, that doesn't work. So it only works on opponent's turn. So even that doesn't work. Yeah, don't see it.
No. Like you say though, there are quite a few cards in the game that are basically made unplayable by Sisu. Like the good 2-strength cards, there are plenty of them out there that perform specific roles, but if they cost upwards of 3,
Yeah.
not really something you can afford to put in your deck at the moment, which is unfortunate, but
yeah.
No.
But the best card, very likely the best card revealed so far, is the New Lady, and I'm very excited by this card because it's also love for for an archetype that didn't get much love in the past since set 1 probably, and that's a green yellow aggro deck. This and this lady is a really, really good card. Nearly everything about it. It's a 5 cost for 4 quest for 2. When you play this character, not only when shifted, you can shift it also for 3. You may return up to 2 character cards with cost 2 or less each from your discard to your hand, and that's crazy good because that's also something like, I think the power of Dock probably is that you pay nearly nothing to draw cards, because a 2 cost 1/3 is okay. It's not nothing, and that's the same for here. You don't lose tempo by playing this card. It's a 5 cost 4/4 quest for 2.
Yep.
And you lose no tempo, and that's really important in aggro decks. You lose no tempo for card draw. That's a really important thing, I think. And that's why this card, if green yellow is a thing, then this card will see play. I'm pretty sure.
Really excited about this one. I think this is one of those things that actually, like I was saying, you look at this and you don't think which of the top 6 or 7 decks does this slot into. You are really thinking about a deck that's mostly disappeared. I'd be looking at like a green yellow Mufasa type aggro thing. We got some great stuff to come together to build that deck, but there's not really any glue for it right now. Often with this, you are going to get to bring back like at least like 2 Cursed Merfolk or something, aren't you? Like this is, you just get to grab, you effectively get this selective draw 2 when you play it. 4/4 is a great stat line. You're not dying to Medusa, you're not getting Sisu'd. They need at least this is how the level my mind's on now. They need 2 ice blocks to kill this with Sisu. Like 3 isn't good, like because they always have 1 ice block. But they need both ice blocks.
You are traumatized. You are really traumatized.
Yeah, exactly. I only think about cards in terms of how many ice blocks must be in play to incidentally kill this with Brawl or Sisu. But 4/4, like I say, great stat line, questing for 2, fantastic. All these aggro type decks, the amber ones, you were really happy to sort of top out with some sort of something that looks a bit like a 4/4 for 5 that quest for 2. You know, different flavors of that kind of thing. 4 willpower as well. Makes it a fantastic Rapunzel target, which any deck like that would probably also play as a 4 of. I really like it. I think it's great.
Yeah.
It's a really cool, unique card that
and
has a lot of potential and thinking about already.
And the color, especially green, it's crazy. You could play everything you want in a deck that's you could have Clarable 1-drop for item destruction. You could have you could get Ursula back. You could get Gogo back. You could get even the Mother Gothel 2-drop. I don't know if it's 2, but it's a removal. You have for every purpose in the color green a solid option, a playable option, what could be brought back by this. I also see a card like I don't know exactly. It was a Chippendale or something. That was a 3 cost with not a bad stat line. I think it was 3/4 or something. And when he comes into play, you you give one of the opponent characters -3 strength by putting the most top 3 cards of your deck into the discard, for example.
Yeah, sure.
And that's a card I could see with that, for example, an aggro deck with that, and that's exactly like I say. You top out, you make a lot of pressure, and then you top out with this, and that's the same like Doc feeling. You think, oh, I survived the early game. He only came to 15, and then he plays Lady and gets 2 characters back, and even a B prep isn't the game winner here because I have a lot of things then, and yeah, I think especially green for me is the shining factor here because it's so many options. I don't know if you play all of that, you probably don't play Clarable and Mother Gothel and such, but you at least have the options to include cards for every purpose in a deck, and that's really cool. I think that leads to very versatile gameplay, and that's always what I like.
Yeah, like you say, there are so many playable 1 and 2 drops that fill specific roles. These aren't aggressive cards. A lot of them aren't, or not like directly. Like, yes, Go is explosive, but it's not necessarily like pure aggro card. All these toolboxy type things that you could effectively play this as like having shift itself as well. You could have a Amber Emerald, like a morph based shift toolbox deck where you just use this for value, right? Where you grab back Ursula's, that sort of thing. Grab back 1-drop Gyros to destroy another item. You're getting a bit towards just being able to play one of those. In Magic they were all green-white, and they were just like a toolboxy, just a stack of creatures that all did various different disruptive things. That's the sort of deck I really enjoyed playing in that game, and I would love to do it again here. So there's probably a few different ways to build this, but I think it's got some real legs, and I could very much imagine myself having a Mufasa in play, getting B prepped, flipping this, and then bringing back 2 things from the discard to my hand. Like,
Is there some card draw? No, there's no Diablo kind of stuff or Chernobog kind of stuff in that 2 colors. No, I don't think so. That would be really crazy good.
Yeah.
That would be infinite gas.
Yeah.
But still, Mufasa hit. Wow, this is a crazy Mufasa hit. Wow. So probably I'm right now. So in the end, we just talk about a bit of the what is the color identity of some color combination, because green yellow will probably be more aggro cards probably. I think, but there are some color combinations I'm really curious what they are. I mean, it was probably obvious that the red blue is some item stuff, and probably blue steel is also some item stuff. But what's with green purple will probably get a Kid Cloud Kicker shift that that bounces the whole opponent board or something, hopefully.
That would make my life complete.
Yeah, me too.
It'd make me so happy.
But what is, for example, with red steel? Must be a pirate, probably, right? Red steel must be a pirate.
Yeah, you'd expect so. Red steel doesn't have a huge amount of identity at the moment, which is, I guess, part of the reason why it's not been too playable. Its identity is like half just big stuff and half like resilient stuff that deals damage. Like the design space that red steel exists in, you could have a card that's so busted it could just be fat. It could just be like a Maui that shoots something for 2 when it comes in as well, or a Maui with resist sort of thing, and becomes this. There's really powerful stuff they could do with it, but I don't really know what the I think that color combination is like big and tough, so it could just be
or red green or something, blue yellow. That's all color combinations. I'm really curious how they because it's really tricky for them to design these cards, because they really make the color combination into a certain direction. And for example, red yellow, we would assume now it's a Mufasa card for Mufasa decks, but
Mm,
did they even think about Mufasa decks when they designed that card? You know,
yeah.
was red yellow the in their mind? Red yellow was probably not the Mufasa color combination. Probably, I don't know.
No, that was the Mufasa stuff kind of was like just not an accident, but like I don't know how much they felt like that would be a key card for that archetype. The identity there is self damage and then healing, and you benefit from healing
Yeah,
the
that's
self
true.
damage that you already had. So who knows what that card could look like?
Yeah,
Again, there's potential to make anything. Yeah, give a card enough of anything, and it's good, right?
yeah.
So you could definitely make it powerful. But one thing I wanted to say on it, on like the
Uh
identities,
huh.
because they developed sets, months out. Ravensburger are working. We have to assume that like 7 and 8 are complete and booked by now, barring any last minute changes. And then oh sorry, no, like 8 and 9. I mean, because 7 we're close to. 7's definitely finished. Um, if they work as they've said before, like at least 3 to 4 sets out, the thing that scares me the most is they have the chance to push specific color identities that are underrepresented. But like, I'm thinking of things that have only become good in the last 1 to 2 sets. So the
Mhm.
biggest example is probably Blurple, that was a complete joke,
Mhm.
probably like a running joke in the community when this set was in development, and since has put like multiple players into top 16 of Continentals.
Mhm.
It's a very viable deck, has all the tools it needs. I'm afraid of a wildly pushed Blurple dual card that is like they've obviously looked and been like, okay, Blurple needs some love. People need to stop making jokes about this deck. We'll give it something fat. And in the meantime, have already given it everything it needs. Yeah, I just feel there's a chance that happens, right?
That's true. Yeah, that's true. Yeah, it's really tough for them to make that
Really
completely.
difficult. Yeah.
Yeah. So from a card design perspective, it's always the best, the most safe way to print only trash cards. You know,
hmm
because yeah, then you don't run into a danger of making a broken card. Of
No.
course, yeah.
Yeah. But then nobody buys your product.
Yeah, that's the other problem. So
Has to be exciting.
we can be lucky that we are no card designers.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, or you definitely would be getting like a shift 3 kick cloud kicker that
Yeah,
bounces the whole opponent's board. Yeah.
quest
Quest for
for
3 as
three,
well.
five
Ward.
five quest for 3. Ward
Yep.
5/5 shift 3. Yeah, and when
Mm.
he banished, you draw a card.
Yeah,
Yeah.
oh, definitely. No, when it not banished. Come on, when it leaves
When
play.
he leaves play and when he
Yeah,
enters play.
yeah. It has the same text as rabbit as well. Yeah,
Yeah, that sounds fair. Thank you.
yeah.
No.
And one day, like a few years down the line, you might find yourself applying for a game design job at Ravensburger, and someone will surface this conversation and play it back to you in your interview, and you just have to walk out looking at the ground, crying.
Yeah, it will be exciting. I'm excited for the next spoilers. Will
I,
be a lot of
I feel
cool
really
things.
positive
Yeah,
about this set, and I just for the sort of reasons I said before, like there is an actual chance that it has real potential to shake things up, and I really hope it does as well, because every set has mostly made a select group of decks stronger. There are things that haven't been displaced for a really long time. I don't think it's a huge issue because the game is diverse, but like freshness is good. Ready for excitement and ready for like true brewing again, not just iterations on existing decks, but actual brewing from the ground up of new lists. And yeah, that's what I loved at the start of the game, and I would love to just get my teeth back into that. And I think there's hope here, isn't there? You've got to keep the hope high because
yeah.
the mechanic is way cooler than anything they've done before.
New mechanics are always cool.
Yeah,
Yeah.
for sure.
Okay, with that said, I think we have always a very long episode today, but we had to talk about a lot of things, so that's reasonable.
hmm
Yeah. With that said, do you have anything to add before we wrap up?
No, I think that's everything. yeah, again, thank you to the nice people at Set Championships that mentioned they listen to the podcast and stuff.
Yeah, for me
And
too.
yeah, I'll never get over
And
it. Really, it's awesome.
yeah, and I wish you, or we wish you good luck in Melbourne if you're competing, and
Yeah, for sure.
bring honor to the Green Purple family. And yeah, with that said, we wrap up, and till next week, and bye bye.
Bye.